Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending. Item 1 on the agenda is apologies for absence. Pamela advises me that we have one apology, which is Councillor Cox. I don't think there is anyone else. No. Item 2 on the agenda then is any declarations of interest. I don't know whether there are any. Don?
Yeah, Chair, I have notified Pam, and Pam's confirmed that she's received it, but I've made an additional declaration of interest.
Thank you, Don. If there are no declaration of interest, then item 3, which is the minutes of the last meeting. You have them there before you. They are for correctness only. Does anyone have any comments to make on the correctness? Don?
I just want to say thank you for the team with the numbering system with the minutes, because it's made it much easier to follow and to note points. So I really appreciated that. So I just wanted to record that.
Thank you, Don. Are there any other comments? No? Norma?
Thank you, Chair. It was in relation to the action table at the back again, in that some dates are in there, some dates aren't, but we really need a separate column, and every action should have a date attached to it. Sorry to keep going on, but I think it's really important for us to track things.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Norma. I was going to raise a similar issue because contained within the recommendations and actually within the minutes, and I'll just use one for an example. Minute 613, which relates to purchase cards. Myrian agreed that he would provide us with an update on the training for the purchase cards and those who actually didn't complete the training by, I think, the end of June, and actually would come back to us. So that's one issue, but there are several others in the recommendation table which should have been coming back to us this evening with a follow-up, and I think therefore that timetable and the timing is essential. I only raised the purchase cards. Again, the other issue is the annual report for Governance and Audit Committee. I think that's on the work programme for next time. But again, we just need some times as to when these are going to be dealt with and by whom. So, obviously, subject to those comments, I don't know whether Myrian or Rhys wanted to comment, but I think they just need picking up at some stage so that we do get the reports back or additional information back to committee to ensure that it's done in a timely manner. And obviously those recommendations, because we haven't had them this time, there are others. Obviously, Sally's here before us, and that's in the timetable. It's or in the recommendations. There are a few other issues, so we've got some people here and other items not addressed. So if we can pick that up for next time.
Yeah, no worries, Chair.
Thank you very much. So subject to those comments and obviously put in who's responsible for and the time by which it will come back to committee. Someone prepared to move the minutes as a correct record, please? Thank you, Councillor Jordan. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Harris. Anyone against? No, they're carried. Thank you very much. Item 4 on the agenda then is the call-in of the Director of Social Services and Head of Service, re the internal audit of adoption allowances, resulting in a third consecutive unsatisfactory opinion. I should imagine that will be Sally. I can see you in the corner of my screen, Sally.
Yes, I'm here, and apologies from Natalie Poyner, Head of Service, who's actually on holiday today, so she's not able to be with us, or she would have been. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sally.
So, shall I just pick up some of the where we are, and then obviously take questions? Would that be? Yeah,
that would be great. Okay. Obviously, there's been the third unsatisfactory report, and there's an action plan attached in any event. But it would be welcoming, because obviously last time you came, you did a quick update of where you are. I would have hoped you've moved on sometime now, and then again just pick it up as to where we're going now.
And absolutely, Chair. I agree with that, and I apologise that we are back here again, and I certainly don't want to be here again, so apologies. Just to reassure, I suppose, the steps that we've now taken is we have actually moved the responsibility for the adoption allowances from one team to another. So we have moved the allowing of accountability from the team it was previously in and taken it off that team, given it to a different team, which is far more clearly aligned to children's services and to the processes that we need to have in place. I think that's the right decision, and the action plan reflects that, in effect, that's the decision we've taken. And I think that's in part because we recognised after the previous call-in that despite all best efforts, and we did touch on this the last time we were here, that some of those involved were perhaps not in a position to make the changes that we needed to make, hence why we made the decision to move it and actually change the full responsibility for where it sits. The other thing that we have done, in a sense, to try to ensure that we have an impetus behind that to speed that change up, is we have sought some additional support with the changes that need to be made in terms of business support, some of which are actually aligned to the next report that I'm going to talk to as well. And it is about bringing all of this together to create additional support within the Children's Services business support area to support both these processes, both the adoption allowances and then going on later, which you're going to no doubt wish to hear about shortly, which is the next item. So we've brought the whole lot together to try to really resolve some of the challenges and issues that we have been experiencing in both these areas. So I'm obviously would be really happy to take any questions on the detail of the action plan or anything else that members would wish to ask me. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that, Sally. We'll go over to members now for any questions. Norma?
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you for that. As you say, it is a bit worrying that this is the third, and satisfactory report. There are a number of things I wanted to follow up, really. Obviously, I don't know the detail of the work, but it sounds to me as if it's not complex, that it's, it should be a fairly simple process, a fairly simple procedure. I've got a number of things before you come back. And I couldn't understand why it's taken so long. And I noticed you mentioned that responsibility was moved from one team to another. So my question is, you mentioned that it's more aligned to their work. So why wasn't that done previously? And was this a matter of capability, competence, or lack of data? What was the root cause? Because I'm still not really clear of the root cause. Because from where I stand, obviously I've got limited information before me. It's a simple management issue in that you make sure you have a policy in place that people can understand in plain English, you have a procedure, and you have quality control over the staff that are operating that policy and procedure. Now, to me, I could take a day out of my working week and sort that. So why is it taking so long? It's just mystified by it, really.
Okay, so firstly coming back to, is it a simple procedure? It's not actually a wholly simple procedure because it is about the collection and the financial assessment of the individuals involved, and there are a number of criteria that need to be met, a number of documents that need to be sourced, and it is about liaising with those individuals to ensure that all of that is done properly. So is it a wholly simple procedure? No, it's not. It's not just a tick box exercise. It's not magic.
It's what you'd expect an average administrator or executive.
Potentially, but I would suggest that actually there are a complex set of calculations in relation to the means testing that need to happen. And some of those are linked back to some of the criteria that come through to us from the DWP as well. So it's not magic, but it's not basic grade business support either. So it's somewhere between the two.
Yeah,
okay, so that's the first thing.
That.
I would say that I don't think it would be appropriate here to go into the capacity of those involved in the individuals. But what I would say is that I think we are now in a considerably better position in relation to doing that. Now, in terms of the alignment of the teams, I agree with you. I think we've been too slow to move it back again. It was moved from one team to another some 6-7 years ago, and I think therein lay some of the challenge. And that was part of the structuring across children's services, adult services and business support. But I think what we found was not having it closely tied to children's services is where some of the challenge arose. And picking up on your point about quality control, what we also found was that because it wasn't the core business of the team that was involved with it, there wasn't sufficient quality control to get it right. Those are the elements that we're now seeking to put right in terms of where we've now cited it within children's business support.
So are we saying it was a structural issue?
I think it was a structural issue, a capacity issue and a resource issue. So I think it's a triple whammy, if I'll be frank.
So structure, competence of team and number of people.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I don't know whether there's any other, because I can't see now. Oh, any other questions? Norma?
Can I come back, because we've got a deadline to put this right of December 2023 and we're now in August. That seems to me a long time away for something as worrying as this, to get it completed and sorted.
We have had discussions about the deadlines and about being realistic about the deadlines rather than setting us deadlines that we would risk failing. One of the things I would say is that the review process for this is a single point in the year, so all of the reviews happen in June, so that's already happened. So in a strange way, we won't actually cover the review period in the period going up to the deadline, which in some ways is something we might want to think about, because what you really want to know is next June, have we actually successfully completed all the reviews? The other thing that I would say to you is that the number of adoption allowances that we get in is really quite small. This is not a huge piece of work. It is a small number of adoption allowances that we create as new allowances each year. It used to be far greater, but these days the number of people who would meet the criteria for a child requiring allowance is relatively small. So I think the other thing that December does is gives us more likelihood of having a greater number that we're able to look at to ensure that they are correct and we're doing them promptly and accurately. My concern about September is we just wouldn't have enough to give you a representative sample.
Thanks, Sally. Is there anyone else? Any questions? No? Are there any comments from anyone? Don?
My comment is that I've read through the report, and the thing that is just coming up big in my head time and time again is that this is the third one. And I'm not, and having read it, I'm not totally convinced it's been bottomed, you know. So my comment is that, you know, that I don't think I can, I think I'm going to have to, you know, say that I think this should be escalated and not accepted and go up there, because I think as the council probably needs to put some resource help to get this done as quickly as we can. So if I know you're going to, I will let you, okay. I think you're going to have a real trouble convincing me after 3. If you'd come with, you know, because I was looking at the time scale, almost everything's in December. That almost strikes me as like a hope, and like almost like a no hope. But I'm just saying what I think, okay? And I could be wrong, but I can't in good conscience not say that we don't refer this through, because I think we need other eyes on it or something, because I think as a governance committee and an audit committee, we need to see this correct, and it's actually been going on for a while. So I don't think we have much choice. So, Chair, that's my comment. I am going to make an additional comment because I'm just on page 20, on page 26, we've got the comments of the monitoring officer, where they say that this matter, it isn't appropriate to escalate it to the cabinet or cabinet member. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. If we're escalating something through, and with the committee being a public forum, does the cabinet? I don't know. Does Jane Mudd want to read about this in the Argus or something? So I really think the cabinet should be aware of this, so that because they represent the citizens of Newport. So to say it isn't appropriate, I don't agree with that comment. So I think that this should get referred through, and that the cabinet member appropriate should be made aware.
Sally, did you want to comment?
Yes, please. Thank you, Chair. So a couple of observations. The Cabinet member is aware. We have made the Cabinet member aware. So that has been done. I think
Sally, can I just interrupt you then? Then you wouldn't have any objection being referred to the Cabinet member, because you're saying they already know. So I don't see a problem with us being able to refer it through either.
No. So, already aware, so that for us would not be a difficult situation at all. And then in terms of additional resource, that's exactly what we've agreed in relation to this and the other one, that the Executive Board has agreed some additional resources available in order to ensure that we have sufficient business support to manage both this and the savings issues. So that has already been agreed.
Thanks for that, Sally. Are there any other comments? No one else showing? Okay. So the proposals within the report are strategic director and head of service, strategic director, which will be confirmed by the third follow-up internal audit, or that we don't accept the explanations and assurances provided and escalate concerns to the Chief Exec and the Executive Board, and I assume Don's amendment is the Cabinet member for Social Services, if that was to be moved. Do I have someone to move one of the recommendations, please?
Sorry, Chair, can I just jump in a second? Where does this leave us with the position the audit team is going to be in, or is this not the right point to ask that question? Are we going to be able? Are the team going to be able to facilitate the need to have this redone again with everything else they've got to do as well?
Well, I think that's a question for a different agenda item, Councillor Horton, because I think you're in the same position as me now regarding the internal audit team. Clearly, this needs to be followed up, and I think, with all due respect to what the director has just said, December is the date there where she needs appropriate time to be given to get the majority of this in place. And I'm sure that the director, as she's done previously, will give us an update in September as to what's happening, because that's what she did last time in July. With all due respect to her, she's been coming forward to give us those updates. So even if this matter is escalated, I think the timetable which has been agreed with between the directorate and the audit team remains in situ, and ensuring that those dates are complied with, then I think that's another issue we need to discuss at a different place in this meeting with the Chief Financial Officer, because obviously the team comes under Myriam. So I think if we deal with this matter as it currently stands, I understand your concern, Councillor Horton, but we've got an issue as to whether we accept what the director has said, or does this get formally escalated now, even though the management team is fully aware and the social services cabinet member is aware, but it does get formally referred up to the executive and the cabinet member. So is someone prepared to move?
Chair, I'm prepared to move that we don't accept, and proposed that we move my amendment as well.
Yeah, okay. So that's we don't accept the explanations and assurances provided and escalate concerns to the Chief Exec and the Executive Board and the Cabinet Member for Social Services. So that's been moved. Is there a seconder? Thank you. Is there any amendment to that recommendation? No. So the recommendation before you is that we don't accept the explanations and assurances provided and escalate concerns to the Chief Exec, the Executive Board and the Cabinet Member for Social Services. All in favour, please show. Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Okay, the next item on the agenda, again, is your Sally, which regards to the unsound opinion for Children's Services safeguarding children's money. I should imagine a similar discussion, really, given that you're moving the team to deal with this.
So just to give members some background to this, the safeguarding of children's money covers a number of areas of savings and money that we hold for children in our care. And bearing in mind the previous question and observations, there is a complexity about this because of the nature of the differences in the types of money that we are holding for children, and also because of the changes that happen within children's lives in the time that they're in our care and known to us. This was a matter that I raised with Andrew Wathan, as I had considerable concerns that we were struggling with this and that we were indeed missing elements of the care that we needed to be put in place, and hence an audit would be a useful thing, if not a necessary thing, to take place. And in part that's because of the complexity across the number of areas. So we have criminal injuries compensation, we have civil payments that are held for children made by the Public Protection Services, compensation that's paid to the children after negligence by ourselves, which is a little complex, but nonetheless we still hold that money for children. Savings for children as a result of the old baby bonds that some of you will remember, which were introduced, which have now ceased, and also savings that we hold for children out of the monies that foster carers and we have from residential care for them. So there's a number of aspects to this. And it also crosses a number of areas of the Council. So it crosses children's services, our colleagues in finance, colleagues in insurance and colleagues in legal. So it crosses a whole number of areas. And we had concerns that this was clearly an area where we knew that there would be concerns, hence why we requested the audit. So that's the sort of starting point for it. Nonetheless, it is of considerable concern that we have an unsound audit opinion, and absolutely that is unacceptable and should not be happening. We are the custodians of the money for children in our care. And we should be looking after that money in such a way that they are able to access that money either at 18 or earlier if there is a need for them to be able to access that money, be that, could be all sorts of things, a really exotic school trip or whatever it may be, but for children in our care to be able to access that money. And equally, it's important that where children are no longer in our care, that money goes with them. So if they leave our care to return to family members, to be adopted, or to return to parents, that money should go with them. And that was one of the challenges, is that clearly that wasn't happening, is that we were continuing to hold money that should have gone with children, basically. The other element that I'll just touch on here, partly because it was raised in the briefing about who holds the money, this money is held in different places. So depending on the nature of what the money is, it is held in different pots. Some of it is, and much of it is held with the Share Foundation, who hold the money, particularly the baby bonds and the savings, and they hold that money and look after that money and provide regular updates on the state of that money. They don't have the names of the children, they have reference numbers for the children, so cross-referencing it back in is where one of the falls has happened and where one of the fail points is. Then there is some money, relatively small amount of money, which is held within the council, within our finance teams. And then further, there is money that is actually held in the Court of Protection, so some of it is held there. And then for a very, very small number of children, we have significant amounts of criminal injuries compensation. These are where large awards have been made for children who have had life-changing injuries as a result of usually parental maltreatment. And those are usually held slightly differently again, as they're held as a trust. So there are various places where this money is held for children. I think obviously it is really disappointing and shameful that we have an unsound audit in relation to this. But I suppose it is also, I am also grateful to have the opportunity to get this right, because it is clearly an imperative that we do hold children's money safely and that it travels with them appropriately and that they are able to access it at 18 as they should. We've already touched a little in terms of discussion about how we address this. And again, this has already been discussed with the Executive Board and it's already been raised with the Cabinet Member. So both of those things have been done. And as part of the discussion with the Executive Board, proposal was taken about additional posts, 2 additional posts actually, one of which has been generated from within Children's Services, the other which has been generated with some additional resource that will be coming to us to do that. And then you can see what we have is an action plan attached to this. The other element of that, and which is clear from the action plan, is we have put all of this within the remit of one service manager, so that we have one person who has got ultimate oversight of it and developing the flow charts, the processes that we need in place to hold this money. And that service manager is the service manager. The post is the service manager with responsibility for children who are looked after. So it's long-term children who are in our care, as the bulk of the children fall within that set of teams. Not all, but the bulk do. And what we've sought to do is work with, obviously, that particular service manager now taking responsibility for holding the whole story with business support and then with colleagues in other areas of the council. And that is where we currently are, is ensuring that that is in place. Just picking up on an earlier point that was raised with us about, was raised in relation to adoption allowances and timelines. Again, we've already had a discussion about trying to ensure we have some realistic timing in this rather than some perhaps earlier timing, but that we have a predominantly later this year timelines in order to ensure that we do successfully address these issues rather than fail again. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Sally. Certainly, the only comment I'd make before I ask for any questions is I think it'd be congratulated for raising this issue. I'm sure in lots of places it wouldn't be raised because it's a big issue and therefore it's a failing. And I think for me, it's really great to see you raising this failure and actually wanting to address it straight off. So I'd like to thank you for that, certainly from an audit perspective and a governance perspective. Any questions? Councillor Mogford?
Thank you, Chair. One thing I don't quite understand, I suppose, is, I mean, to use your words, you said it was shameful. Does it take an audit, or a second audit, or a third audit for the management team? This is a general question, but it's also a specific question. Does it take an audit for you to realise there is something not quite right or severely wrong? I mean, audits are great at finding things that are hidden, yeah, perhaps buried. But this isn't hidden or buried. This is something that you would have been well aware of. So my concern is that it takes that trigger point of an audit to bring it to the point of resolution. Is that a fair comment?
I don't think it is in this case. I mean, this, obviously the adoption allowance is slightly different in terms of that was the third audit. This is the first time this has come to you. I mean, we raised this. We knew that this was a problem. It didn't need the audit for us to tell us. We knew. What we wanted was that independence that the audit brought to bring it all together to us and to highlight and understand it. So, no, it didn't need the audit to do it. We raised it first. Now, should we have tried to resolve it? And we had taken some steps, actually. There had been some actions taken to try to pull some of it together. But what became clear whilst we were doing that was actually needing that independence was really probably what would have really helped us in taking it forward. So I understand your point, Councillor Mogford, but in this instance, it didn't take the audit to surface it. We surfaced it to audit, so it's the other way around in effect. Does that mean as a management team that we should have done more to address it? Possibly. Picking up on the Chair's point, I am aware that there are now other children's services who are going through similar audits on the back of ours. And I'm also aware that, again, some who are part of this committee will be aware that another South East Wales council actually was taken to judicial review over this matter. So it doesn't justify, it doesn't make it right, but I don't think it's a specific challenge that is peculiar to us. I think it is something to do with the dint of how all this arises and where it's held and who holds the narrative and the stories around this money. We're not the only council who has struggled with this.
Thank you. Any other questions? Norma?
Thank you, and thank you for that explanation. And, you know, it certainly was a wise move. Whenever there are problem areas, I think it's a really good thing to bring audit in so you can resolve the issues and move on. I understand the complexity, the different types of payments and how they're held differently and all the rest of it. But, you know, my notes here, you know, was actually worse than yours in terms of the situation. I thought, appalling, you know, because this impacts young people. So my question is, how long has this been going on?
Well, I think it's a really good question, actually. So one of the things that happened was, and one of the things that I suppose set us on the trail of requesting audit was, we had a number of issues raised to do with payments that were made through the family court in respect of delays in proceedings and that money being held for children. I suppose part of it was a realisation was we were being asked to be litigant in person for some of these cases, and we didn't know what they were, and they were being taken through other means. So, for example, Cafcas Cymru were taking them through to the official solicitor, and we didn't know until we received documentation round another way. And I think that triggered us to look at the whole thing. That's the first thing. The savings issue, so the children's saving issue, was triggered for us by the judicial review, is wanting to look at it and realising that we needed to put our own house in order. And the bonus bonds issue was triggered by needing to look at what was happening with the Share Foundation. So there's a series of triggers that all came together. I mean, we've put all of this together to deal with as one great clump, if you like, of separate issues all to do with children's money, all of which had separate triggers to set us off to try to resolve. So it's different. It's different timings for different issues, basically.
I understand. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? I can't see because...
okay, I've got my hand up, Gareth.
Yeah, the camera doesn't come round quick enough.
Okay. What a job you've got, Sally. I just wanted to, it's a really quick one. In the action plan, I can't see where it says this has been referred up to the Cabinet and the senior management team. Am I missing something?
It may not be in the action plan. It hasn't been referred to Cabinet. We've discussed it with the Cabinet members, so it's not been referred to Cabinet. It may not be in the action plan that it's been to Exec Board, but it has been to Exec Board, and that meeting was minuted.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other questions?
Yes, me, Chair. Sally, money...
Sorry, I can't.
That's okay. I'm assuming, or I'm correct in assuming, that all the money that's being held is in accounts which is generating interest for the children or the young adults. And so, although they are being impacted on the length of time it's taking for it to be paid out to them, they are accruing interest on their money. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason why the money is held in the Share Foundation is for that reason, is that money is continuing to accrue, yes.
And is it held in the best sort of accounts? So their financial interests are being properly looked after?
Yes, as far as I'm aware. I mean, the Share Foundation very specifically manages the old baby bonds, which is what they were... I mean, unless you've got children of a certain age, you won't remember they were an introduction by Gordon Brown, actually, for all children to have savings. So they exist for a group of children of a certain demographic. And the Share Foundation specifically handles a number of those on behalf of local authorities. I mean, obviously, as a parent, you might have handled that money differently, but the Share Foundation specifically handles those. And the Share Foundation also handles savings on behalf of a number of local authorities in relation to savings for children. It's also having a way to hold the money that I mean, it's ironic given where we are, but that you can travel with the children. So, I mean, you'll be aware that children, they perhaps move from foster carer to foster carer, they move residential home. So trying to ensure that you have somewhere that holds all of their money, I mean, clearly we failed in this instance, but I think that is some of the thinking about why you hold the money with the Share Foundation.
Thank you, Sally. Are there any other questions, anyone? No? No? Any comments? No? Sally, the only... Oh, prior to Don, I just got one, Sally, for you. It may be fairly opportune that in the press, I think it was today and yesterday, it's been reported that there's, I think, £1.7 billion held in these trust funds, where they don't know who it belongs to. It's in the children's funds, I think, but it's a huge sum of money, yeah, and it's still lingering within organisations.
Yes, I am aware.
I don't know whether you've seen that.
Yeah, I am aware, and I was aware that there are some real challenges in, I mean, one of the other elements that has recently come to light is that there are some particular challenges for disabled young people, where they have to go to the Court of Protection to get this money released, and there is something of a burgeoning scandal, I think, in relation to that group of children being able to access this money at all. So as they hit 18, if they don't have capacity, and the Court of Protection then has to determine the release of the money, families are finding it extremely difficult to be able to access it. I mean, that will apply to some of the money for some of our children, because obviously we do work with a number of very children who will struggle in terms of disability. So we will have to work that through as well in relation to this and how we support them to access funding through the Court of Protection. So yes, I am aware that it is a real challenge in terms of what's happened to that money. And I mean, the politics aside, you can see why there was good intent when it was set up, but it clearly has floundered in terms of actually addressing what was supposed to be a setting up of savings for children as they entered early adulthood.
Thank you for that, Sally. Sorry, I think Don, you'd indicated.
I did, Chair. I might probably don't like myself too much, but there we go. Sally, first of all, thanks for self-reporting. That's brilliant. Identifying that there's a problem, and with your explanations and the complexity of it, just is staggering, really. But if I put my membership of the Governance and Audit Committee, I've got what I see is we have an unsound report from us. Again, I don't see this being bottomed. So my comment, Chair, is that we regrettably have to not accept the explanation and escalate this. In terms of Sally's comments, they won't be surprised because they already know about it. But I think as a governance committee, we're almost bound to escalate this so that it gets bottomed quickly, and the stakeholders, the children, and this gets sorted and as quickly as possible. So that would be my comment, that we don't accept, unfortunately, but we have to pass on.
Okay. Are there any comments from anyone else? Okay, so as I understand it, then the recommendation, which I understand be moved by Don, is that the Governance and Audit Committee does not accept the explanation and assurances provided and escalate concerns to the Chief Exec, the Executive Board and the Cabinet Member. I hope I've got that correct, Don. Are you prepared to move that?
I am, Chair.
Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Are there any amendments to that? No. So you've got the recommendation before you that the Governance and Audit Committee does not accept the explanations and assurances provided and escalate concerns to the Chief Exec, the Executive Board and the Cabinet Member. Can I have a show of hands, please? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Thank you for that. And Sally, can I just say thank you for coming along this evening. You've got a big task in hand, but I'm sure through your leadership and that with your management team within social services, this matter will be resolved. And if you can just keep us updated by way of a memorandum in September, then obviously that would be great, and we'll just keep a weathered eye on it for the future. Thank you very much. Item 6. Sally, if you want to go home, you can. Item 6 on the agenda is just an update from the head of service on the PTU taxi contracts, which resulted in a second unsatisfactory opinion. Obviously, you appeared before us in July. Good progress was being made. I think we just need the reassurance again on this occasion that improvement is continuing and that we've had no hiccups. Okay, who's dealing with it? Don?
Yeah, my comment would be it's the progress, and it's very encouraging, you know, and you know, the updates and keeping the eye on it. It is very, very encouraging, you know. If we're allowed to say, I actually love it. So it's really nice to see.
Good, thank you. Do we have the head of infrastructure there?
Chair, we don't, but I think that the information is within the report itself. The audit team did do a review of this at the end of June, and the results of that are actually embedded within the report. There is nobody here from the departments, but hopefully the information in the report provides the comfort that the committee wants. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Myrian. Given it's written by the head of infrastructure, I would have hoped that one of his representatives or someone else would have presented the report and not turned up. Obviously, I accept that good progress is being made, but as a matter of courtesy, someone should have come. Anyway, any other questions? Any comments? No. I think the recommendation is that we note the contents of the report. I believe that a further report is required at the next committee, and subject to the continuing improvement, that will be the last time they attend. And hopefully someone will come and present the report next time. Someone prepared to move that we note the report? Thank you, Councillor Harris. Anyone seconder? Thank you, Norma. All in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Next item on the agenda is the Corporate Risk Register, Quarter 4.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take us through that. And my colleague Paul Flint will support. We're on page 61 of the papers. So members will recall that the role of the committee is to be assured that the right procedures are in place to manage significant and all risks in the council rather than the detail of the risks themselves. This is quarter 4 of the previous financial year. At the end of quarter 4, there were 14 risks recorded in the corporate risk register. All of those are outlined in the register attached, and members will also note we've made some changes to the register format to consider previous feedback, such as what do the abbreviations mean and how can it be displayed more clearly. 8 severe risks, 6 major risks, and in comparison to the quarter 3 report, 2 of the risks have decreased in their risk score. No change with the remaining risk scores. Paul, do you want to add any details to that, please?
Yeah, so in relation to quarter 4, there were also two changes in terms of the risk register. So firstly, there was a risk escalated to the corporate risk register which in relation to the Eliminate programme. So any of you who don't know what Eliminate is, it's a Welsh Government piece of legislation to eliminate profit from children's social care. As a result of the legislation and also as detailed in the report, significant pressures being put onto the Council to deliver this programme of work. This has been escalated up into the Corporate Risk Register, and that was accepted by the Council's Executive Board. In addition, one risk was de-escalated from the Corporate Risk Register. So when we say that a risk has been de-escalated, it means that it's been removed from the Corporate Risk Register but still monitored through the service area's own risk register. And that relates to the Ash-Dieback disease work that's been ongoing. And that risk has improved, so it was felt that it was no longer a corporate risk and can be managed within the service area themselves. So we're happy to take any further comments and questions from the committee.
Yeah, thank you, Paul and Tracy, for that. Thank you very much. Questions, please. Don?
Actually, that was normal, but thank you, Gareth.
I thought I saw your hand go up. Maybe you were scratching your nose.
Yeah, he's got my
Norma.
band in his hand. Yeah. Okay, thanks. I was really worried about this Eliminate programme, and I'm sure it's worrying for not just for, it is Eliminate, isn't it? Not just for Newport, for other local authorities, because, you know, if you're driving profit out of social care, you're not going to get the private sector involved in social care, which puts an awful lot of pressure on the public sector. And, you know, we're in a position where, you know, we've got people like me grown old, and, you know, are likely to put demands on the system. Is anything being done nationally to address this within government?
If Sally was still here, she'd be able to answer this in detail.
Right.
But just to provide a brief explanation, we do have a programme ongoing now within Children's Services who are delivering that programme, and that's being delivered through the region, through the Gwent region and other local authorities in Gwent. But there's also a Welsh bigger programme of work to support local authorities with that work. So the Director of Social Services and the Head of Children's Services are in constant contact with Welsh Government and through like a wider group that's looking at this piece of work. Yeah, I don't know if the Director of Transformation Corporate wants to add anything else onto that, but that's what's going on.
Okay.
I suppose the only thing I'd add, so just to clarify, this is about children's social care.
Yes, yeah. Sorry, yes, yeah.
So not specifically in, it's a risk that's been escalated, not specifically in the remit of this committee. So if there were anything specifically you wanted to know, we could get a written response, so just an information update for you if you'd like to, just to come back to the committee on where we are with it. It'll be reported through the People's Scrutiny Committee. There's a project board in place. It is a significant challenge. It is. I understand the thinking behind it, but it is a significant challenge for the authority and others.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'd like. I don't know whether other members think the same, but I think I'd like further information, because when I read this, I was quite worried about the implications for the authority and for the children in the area. Yep. Okay. Thanks.
Are there any other questions, anyone?
I don't know if you're screened, but I've got my hand up, Gareth.
Thank you, Don. I can see you now.
Okay. First of all, thanks for all the improvements that have been done on it. It really is good with the direction of travel. Okay. Now you're going to get some SADO questions, so I'm sorry. On page 90, 87, 93, 94 in your risk mitigation action plan, this relates to Q4, which I'm assuming ends on the 5th of April, and we are in July, and you've got estimated completion dates of the 31st of March 2023. I think we should know whether that happened or not. It's just, as a committee, or is there slippage on those, especially as a part of the risk mitigation? And some of the other estimated completion dates are before the date of this committee. Now, I know the report goes to Q4, but like some of them are the 30th of April. And I'm just wondering whether, you know, like even having a verbal update, say, actually that did happen, because we just want to know that on the risk mitigation plan, if the estimated completion date did happen, that's brilliant. If it didn't, we would just like to know.
Yeah, thank you for the comment there. So we'll take a look at that in readiness for the Q1 report, and we'll have a look in terms of the reporting, just to assure the committee in terms of the process and just around the kind of how we review risks and in terms of how we monitor and keep up to date. So we're currently going through a kind of what we call a sense check review through the service plans and also through the risk register. So every quarter we also review and assess the completion of the risk mitigations. So as you know, that this would have been at a time back in March when everybody was completing their Q4 updates and the end of year updates. So, you know, service plans and risk action plans are being reviewed and being completed. So you should see some additionality in terms of the changes with the risk mitigations, and we can have a look at to see how we can make that clearer in terms of which risks actions have been completed and which ones are still ongoing. So thank you for your comment.
Reece has got his hand up, Gareth.
Right, yeah, well, I've just seen it. I've been scanned across. Reece.
I got pins and needles in my hand. It was up so long there, waiting for the camera to come round. Chair, my colleagues are probably going to hate me for saying this, but you know, your role is about the assurance, the systems and processes we've got in place around risk management. So it's difficult to look back because this is a retrospective look back. You know, we're looking back 6 months now, aren't we? 3 months now to the end of March. It may be worthwhile just to give assurance to the committee that actually there's a live system that actually does this, that in the next meeting, perhaps just a 5-minute demonstration of the system for you so you can see it live, the in-phase system, MyHub, where it's got the performance data and the risk data, so you can actually see that it is that's what we use to do it. Because this is just a snapshot in time. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Reece. Don, is anything else?
Yeah, there was a couple of things. I'm just looking at the glares that Reece is now getting from colleagues, but I didn't really want to comment on that. But one of the things it's on page 93, and again, thanks to the Democratic Services, the way the reports are numbered, because it makes it so much easier when we're doing this now. There's a reference to the People's Capital Group in the governance section, and I don't know who they are. The only people who I can find are the People's Capital Group, are based in New Jersey, and I just wondered if someone could help this Sado.
Thank you. It sounds a bit Monty Python-esque, doesn't it? That should be reworded because it's an internal officer group who are responsible for oversight there, and actually capital is monitored at exec board level. So it's a group that specifically looks at projects relating to people, which would be education and social care. Okay. But the way that's worded doesn't really come through.
So you can confirm, Tracy, this is not some VC in New Jersey
as
who's
not
controlling.
As far as I know,
okay.
Not this one.
Okay.
But we should clear
if that could be
wording.
reworded,
yes,
that'd
absolutely.
be great. You know, because in a Google search, that's not good. That's not a good look.
Absolutely not.
The other thing I wanted to ask, it's regarding on page 87 where it's got where it talks in terms of the risk overview, and it could lead to the and you quote, could lead to the prosecution of the head of children's service. If I was the head of children's service, I would feel very uncomfortable with that wording. So my question is, what is the likelihood of that happening?
I think that's probably her wording in there that the head of children's services put in there, and that is a very real possibility as a statutory officer of a personal prosecution.
Personal. Right, okay.
Could I come back in there, Chair? That's an interesting point about the wording, actually. So the way these reports are collated, as you'll see in a presentation, is that the detail of the risk is collated by officers authorised by their head of service, signed off by the director, because it's really important they're not Paul's words or Tracy's words or, in fact, the director's words. It has to be the responsible officer, and then we're the people that collate that. So that's a really important point. Thanks.
Are there any other questions? Wait for the camera to come round. Don?
It's me again. Norma tried to turn off my mic. I'm just in looking at the different risk assessments. Just one concern that I almost think is there an elephant in the room that I couldn't see in the risk assessment? And again, I'm probably missing it. But as a council, there's this shortfall of 26.7 million or something. I would have thought that was major risk, and how is that being mitigated? What's the direction of travel on that? So I might have missed it. I'm not on a page. I'm saying it's not there. And I'm just wondering if that's an elephant in the room that's being missed.
Is that in relation to the MTFP? Sorry.
I just thought,
thought,
Paul, there would be a clear risk.
I think that's covered by what's on page 79, which is balancing the council's medium-term budget. Clearly, it's important that this is the snapshot as at the end of last year. We've yet to look at our position for the for next year, so the figures will be subject to change. But this has been a consistent risk for some time.
Just is 16 a fair score? Do you want me to ask Marion?
Chair, I mean, that was our assessment at that time. And, you know, it will be kept under review.
Any other questions? Okay. Any comments? Can I just raise some issues then? And it's in regards to the point that Councillor Horton was also making. And I think I've got to put it onto the hat of balancing the medium-term budget. And whilst I understand what Myron just said, this is at the end of Q4, which presumably is 31st of March. What concerns me is in this next quarter, and I'm not crystal ball gazing, but we've got a real issue in regards to the internal audit team, and balancing the medium-term financial plan actually comes within that criteria, because it says existing arrangements to manage risk, other arrangements, internal audit reviews of finance and financial controls. And clearly, what we have been told over the past couple of months is the team has lost the chief internal or the regional manager. Then we lost another management manager within internal audit. We're now losing Donna, and I believe the team is likely to consist of one. So the risk for this committee, and I'm just saying for this committee, is quite enormous, really. Firstly, for delivering of the audit plan 2023-24. And clearly, it's a big issue because you know, we were told that we were going down to one individual only a couple of weeks ago. Only today, I've been written to by the chair of one of the scrutiny committees, who is raising immense concern about it and asking me to address it as the governance and audit committee. I think it's Councillor Howells is the chair, and wanted me to raise it very specifically tonight, and I'm going to raise it under this item, or somewhere because it's got to be raised. And having only one member of staff within the team going forward is a huge risk to this council, in my opinion. And again, the risk was also mentioned previously when a member of staff was cut as part of the budget savings. So we're even in a worse position now moving forward. On that basis, and again, I think someone just needs to check this. Balancing the council medium-term budget, the lead cabinet member is the leader of the council and the cabinet member for economic growth and investment. And I've checked the website, that cabinet post doesn't exist at this moment in time. So I don't know which cabinet member is now responsible for economic growth and investment, whether it's the cabinet member for organisational transformation or whatever. But clearly that, unless I'm corrected, unless what's on the website is wrong, and unless all the cabinet members' responsibilities is wrong, that post doesn't exist.
Sorry, Chair, that sits with the leader. That sits with the leader at the moment.
Well, it doesn't say that on the medium-term budget. So, thank you for that, Councillor Horton. But, this is what the plan says here before me and before us tonight. So the real issue for me is that in addressing this going forward, now whether it's on this item or on another item, I am going to make a recommendation, which I'm going to put to committee for consideration, that this matter is addressed as a matter of urgency. Now, I understand I'm going to be told no X, Y, and Z. I've checked the terms of reference for the committee. The terms of reference 4C says that obviously we review and assess the risk management, internal control, performance assessment, corporate governance arrangements with the authority. It's for us to make reports, recommendations to the authority on the adequacy and effectiveness of those arrangements. We're there to review the adequacy of the council's internal audit resources and to make recommendations. So that's a clear matter for us to look at. And the one which is quite interesting, and again, maybe I don't need any advice on it, but I think maybe someone needs to give some advice, is that we can seek the assurance on the adequacy of the cabinet member and or the management responses to any internal audit advice, findings and recommendations. So in my mind, we can call either the management in or the cabinet member or the leader of the council. So in this regard, I have got a recommendation, which I will read out once we've concluded this matter with no other comments. And then clearly, if people wish to go away, and then if it's accepted, start with as a recommendation, and it becomes a formal resolution, then hopefully we can move this agenda item forward. But the internal audit team now within Newport, if it does only consist of one going forward, gives me and hopefully this committee, and I'm not speaking on behalf of everyone else, they can speak for themselves, grave concern moving forward. Are there any other comments?
Chair, if I could just say a few words myself. I mean, certainly in terms of what started this conversation, which is the risk register, clearly the internal audit team, like many other aspects, is part of the existing arrangements, but they are one out of a lot of our existing arrangements to manage risk. And I think that there will be other issues that will equally, or if not more, affect my assessment of that risk, in particular things like Welsh Government's funding, the fiscal outlook, etc., etc. But to come back now then to the internal audit arrangements, you are correct. We are now down to, we are not yet down to, but we are heading down towards one member of staff from a team of six and a half members of staff back in March. I think we had one vacancy then as well. And we've had what I can only describe as an incredibly difficult quarter, with staff mainly leaving us for promotions elsewhere, and one member of staff leaving us to pursue different interests. So that has been unprecedented, and it does leave us with a big challenge. So there's a short-term challenge and there's a longer-term challenge and solution, and I am working on both of those aspects. So first of all, we have engaged an external consultancy to do 80 days worth of audits for us this year. We've used them before. We will now have to consider asking them for more, and that will be dependent upon what the budget will accommodate. But when Donna is back from sort of leave, we'll be looking to sort of clarify in our minds as to what additional days on top of the original 80 we can ideally have. Well, A, what we can afford, and B, what that consultancy have the capacity to also give us as well. They are also part of the short-term solution to the management of the audit team. So I have been in discussions on 3 or 4 potential solutions for interim management arrangements. And, you know, there is no capacity from existing local authorities to help us out. So I will be, therefore, having a conversation with that same consultancy to provide us with the external audit manager, chief internal auditor, help as well. So essentially, this year, the council's internal audit is going to be delivered to the extent it can by an external contract, mainly. It will not be the full audit plan, because that would be unaffordable. But we will be asking them to increase those days. So that's the short term. Longer term, as I think I've mentioned here before, we are looking at a more kind of strategic approach with a wider regional service. There's a meeting in early September with the host authority, and I believe that the regional service board is meeting at the end of September, and I'm hoping to sort of get some positive news from the end of September, which will then see us transition into that service. Clearly, it will still be challenging for us, because we will be transferring into it with no staff to offer. So I think there'll still be a heavy reliance on that external audit consultancy, who I believe are also working for the regional service, who've already got their own resource challenges as well. So it is a very, very challenging situation. It is being escalated onto the corporate risk register for the end of the Q1 of this year. It'll be discussed at the executive board on the 15th of August, just to confirm that. So it has it has a high priority with both myself, but also with the director and also the wider executive board as well. And we are looking at the, both short-term sticking plaster plus the longer-term plan, which over time, and it will take time, should get us back to a more stable position. So I can't give you the comfort that everything is going to be absolutely 100% okay this year, and the audit plan, or 70+% of the audit plan, is going to be delivered, which is the norm. But we are doing, what we can to provide a level of assurance to the organisation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Myri. And I don't know whether anyone else got any comments, but whoops, here we go. Norma first.
Yes, thank you. A couple of comments, really. First of all, I understand that Newport's not alone in struggling to find staff for the audit teams. I realise how difficult that is, and I'll come back to that in a minute, because we've got to try and find some innovative solutions to that problem. On a Wales basis, I would suggest, as well as on a local authority basis. This committee, Chair, as mentioned before, that we were concerned about one post being dropped from audit for this financial year, and we put a lot of value on the service. We're now in a position where we've lost 5 posts over 4 months. Now, that to me raises some concerns, because the very fact that people are leaving at a time when promotional opportunities are being created worries me. And I just wonder whether exit interviews have been held, and whether there's anything in that in terms of why people are leaving. So I think that's a valid thing that I think the authority should be looking at. My second point was, is there any way in which we can be a bit innovative in trying to find people, if we bring in young graduates or something and offer them a training programme, or we can actually go to retirees to see whether any, auditors that would want to come back on an interim management basis, because I'm quite sure there are people out there who wouldn't mind topping up their pensions with the cost of living, etc. I just think we need to be thinking outside the box, because it's absolutely vital, from what we've seen here, that the authority has a fully functional audit service. And I understand, and I think it's a great idea to go to a wider regional service, and would support that. But there are 2 things, really. Have we done exit interviews? Does that tell us anything about the authority and this culture? And secondly, can we think a bit more innovatively, or have we thought a bit more innovatively about how we can secure staffing at not the cost of a consultancy?
Chair, shall I?
Carry on.
Yeah.
Are you okay for me just to respond to that, Dom?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. I think this is a very important issue, Rhys, which needs to be.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
A couple of things. I'm sure Tracy will want to come in on some of this. So a couple of things, just to clarify, so we're all clear about this. We've lost staff. We have not lost any posts.
No, I know that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So I think we've said posts have gone a couple of times in this. We had a reduction as part of the MTFP process last year. There's a complement of staff within there. All those posts, and the funding for those posts is still available. And we've not reduced anything else. There's a series of circumstances that have led us to a situation where we've lost a number of experienced people from those roles over the last couple of months. Exit interviews are offered to all staff leaving the organisation. They're not compulsory. We can't make them have them. A member of staff can have an exit interview with a line manager or with an independent person from HR. That's offered to everybody. In these circumstances, those people who've left, I'm not sure if they've taken up that opportunity or not. But we certainly can have a look at that. They are confidential, so obviously the organisation, HR will take that information and see if there are any trends and respond to that in due course. You're absolutely right around the innovative approaches. We've got a series of issues across the organisation with recruitment into technical posts. And we're not alone. Most local authorities are in exactly the same place. We're not only competing with the private sector for those roles, but we're also competing with other public sector organisations that have different pay structures to ours. So, it is a very competitive market, and roles like these are a challenge. But there are a series of things that we can do. We offer traineeships, we offer apprenticeship programmes, graduate placement programmes in order to do that. I think some of the things you said then about maybe people who have retired and maybe looking to step back in, certainly things we can look at. And we can even offer market supplements in certain circumstances to posts that we struggle to recruit to. The challenge, one of the challenges we've got at the moment is we're in this situation as Newport City Council and we want to move into a regional service. And it's that dilemma about recruiting now and transferring people in. What is your chance of recruiting now when actually you know that's what's going to happen? Or do you wait and hold fire until you move into the regional service? And I think some of the conversations that Myron's having around that are really important. But ultimately, not to put Myron on the spot, but ultimately, Myron is, as head of service, has the responsibility for that. It's his delegated authority. But, you know, just to say that the funding is there for the posts. There are ways we can look at innovative approaches to that. But, you know, it is a very, very challenging market. And not just for this. The committee that's written to the chair, you know, a couple of months ago, Tracy, Kevin Howells, who's the HR manager, and myself took a paper there around the recruitment and retention issues we've got across the organisation.
I think Don was showing, and I think Councillor Horton and Councillor Mogford, I think. But Don?
Thank you, Gareth. I just wanted to check on my maths here, Marion. So you'll have to bear with me, okay? I'm just on the basis that I think when we were originally, I'm just trying to understand, you know, what we can expect from the audit. Really appreciate what you say, Rhys, and the difficulty, really do. But when we're at a previous committee, you talked in terms of like when we've got the consultants in, that they're going to cost 50% more than if we had staff, you know, the premium for bringing in outside. So my wonder, I'm just working it through, is that if we were going to do 70% of the original plan, with the complement that we did have, and now we've gone down, and the internal is going to cost us 50% more, what percentage are we looking at of being complete in the audit plan at the moment?
So I want to look at that again. So I can't answer that question now, but I will give you an update when we next meet in September. It clearly isn't going to be as high as the 70%, but actually I need to sit down with Donna, understand what we've already committed to, what the capacity of that consultancy is to give us more sort of days and what we can afford, and then we'll come back with a revised figure. I have to say, I'm even querying the accuracy of that 70%, given that their rates are double, you know. So I'd rather give you an accurate figure that I'm a bit closer to than that figure currently. Okay.
Okay. I think Councillor Horton, and I think, was it Councillor Mogford?
No, Chair, it's Councillor Jordan, who may be withdrawing his question. Do you want to?
Yeah,
okay,
I'll withdraw the
Horton.
question.
Thanks, Councillor Jordan. Sorry, it's a bit difficult from 2,000 miles away to see whose hand goes up first. Councillor Horton.
Thank you, Chair. There's a few questions. The first one, which was about the cost, it was like 80 days. What is the cost of 80 days? Or what's the cost of 1 day?
I'll have to come back to you on that. It depends on the seniority of the people that we've got.
Okay, so the next one then is your time. So the timeline, basic recruitment timeline, a month doing so advert, a month interview, a month offer, a month, anywhere between 3 to 6 months for somebody to resign and then come to post. So we're looking at potentially up to 6 to 9 months before an auditor could be in position. Would you say that was fair?
So the adverts for the principal auditors are now live. We have had to make that a long deadline because we're now in the summer holidays. So you know the usual 2 to 3 weeks wouldn't work. So we are taking those deadlines to early September.
Okay.
And I think that's sensible. I will be advertising an audit manager role as well. and I'll be doing that over the next couple of weeks. But you are right. By the time you've kind of had that time and you've interviewed, a principal auditor, certainly an audit manager, well, obviously at least a month, but possibly 2 months' notice period, depending on what they're doing now.
I think you'd be lucky.
So, we are looking at about 4 months plus, yes.
Okay, we'll come back to that in 4 months' time then. So the pool, would I be correct in thinking, you mentioned a number of times the regional service, that is going to be the pool you're going to be trying to pull from. So I would assume, unless you're going to be going very wide, that the auditors that will be potentially applying, are going to be the same people who are sitting in this wider regional area?
Not necessarily. And I cannot imagine for a minute that would happen, because they would also know that we are considering going into the pool. So it would be a bit of a circular thing, wouldn't it? So at the moment, that regional service is made up of 4 councils, and there are 2 councils, us included, and I can't go into detail, of course, that are having informal conversations about joining. Obviously, that would have to go through the formal decision making at some point.
Yeah, my point is that obviously that the pool becomes much, much smaller.
It does, yes.
And as soon as you start leaving the region, the area, the wage cost in order to pull people in is going to be much greater, which then causes other problems internally, because other people are going to be saying, I'm being paid more. So
you are right, and that's why let's call it the South Wales Consortium, regional service is our preference, and that's who we are talking to, because that would be, in due course, would be pulling in most of the local councils. So it does make sense. Creating a competition across the sector does local governments no good at all. So in terms of the 4 councils that are there, it is Merthyr Council, RCT, the Vale, and Ambridge End Council. Yeah. So, if I was speaking to you in 5 years' time, I think that will look a lot bigger and a lot different, because I think it's the only show in town.
Yep. Okay. So that brings me on to the next part of my question. I'm assuming you've got a budget for six members of staff, or 6.5 members of staff you mentioned earlier. Right. Now, is that for 6 posts, 6.5 posts, or is that a value?
I've got a value, which funds currently 6.5 posts.
So would I be correct in assuming that as the cost of each of these employees rises, the ceiling is not going to rise with them, so the number of posts will be reduced?
Sorry, I don't understand your...
Well, okay, you've got £1 million to employ 6 people. It's going to cost you 1.2 million to employ the 6 people. You haven't got 1.2, so you can only employ 5.
In your example there, that £1 million is sufficient today for those 6.5.
My point is, as the cost of each of these employees goes up, because you're going to have to go wider to recruit, are you still... okay, so what I'm saying is, you want 6 people, it's going to cost you more than 6 people. You won't have enough money in the budget to pay for the 6 people. So you have 5 instead. Would that be correct?
Well, we don't know that yet. So there's 2 aspects here. If we were going to develop the audit team within Newport, then we would be taking a look at the structure, which could have an impact on the sort of grades, and then that would have a budgetary impact. That would be, discussed and taken through the council's, internal decision-making process, including the budget, if that was a priority. When we go into the regional service, it's a different conversation, but clearly there will be a conversation around what the current audit team, and therefore the money that I've got for that team, delivers in terms of the number of audit days versus maybe what the audit days that joining a bigger consortium could give me. Because yes, their structure and their operating model is different. So those are all things that we need to be discussing over the next sort of 2 to 3 months. My focus will be to protect as much as possible, you know, the audit efforts, the audit days that we've currently got, so that we can get that same level of service and assurance.
Okay, my last question, and this is probably more for you, Rhys. If the posts aren't filled come budget next year, we all know that if there's a vacancy, it's an easy target. Can we have some assurances that if the posts aren't filled, that they are not going to be axed as a low-hanging fruit?
Can I answer the other question you're asking, Myron, first of all? Okay. Just for clarity, so there's a budget. So the posts are graded against our pay and grading policy, which is set by council. So Myron, nor I, nor the chief exec have the authority to go outside of that. It's different if you're purchasing a service. So the external audit company that Myron's talking about, so, you know, there's just a cost of that, so that goes through procurement process. If Myron, as Myron said, if he changes his structure in order to change the grades within that, then that becomes a budget pressure, and he goes through the budget pressure process that would go through. As far as potential savings for next year, we do need to make savings as an organisation for next year as things currently stand. Obviously still working through what that exact figure is. There was the indicative figure given in the council papers when budget was set for this year, which was around a gap of about 14 million. So there's pressure right across the piece. You know, we are, my opinion, so as the director of responsibility for it, my opinion is that we could not safely take any more resource out of that audit team. I don't set the council budget. Council does. All right? So that would not be the first place I would go. I think we are, you know, we're at a level where the assurance around risk, it would become a challenge if we went any lower than that. I think the opportunity going in regional service, as Myron said, it's the only show in town. A regional service will better attract people into it because you've got a broader range of things you can do, more scope for progression through that than as a single local authority and a very small service. And that goes for quite a lot of those small sort of corporate pieces of work and services that we've got. You know, the future for those is probably going to be in a regional service somewhere. So that's as good as answer I can give to that one.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments? No, if there are, I've just got to make a few points. Firstly, I want it noted again that I chair the governance and audit committees of 2 local authorities that are serviced by the regional consortium. So I just want that noted. I've got no influence over them, but they do report to 2 councils where I chair. And just to give some background, they've also got some vacancies as well. So the challenge is there, clearly in regards to any service delivery. Given what's been said, and I drafted a recommendation this afternoon, so I think it would carry most bits. I think the first thing we've got to remember is that Marion, as Section 151 officer, has a statutory duty, as the Chief Exec, in regards to staffing requirements and staffing structures of his teams. And if he is unable to deliver a service, then he has a statutory responsibility to report it to Council. I think the other thing, Marion, and I'm sure he'll tell me if I'm right or wrong here, the Internal Audit Service has a statutory basis as well, and it's covered, I believe, by the Accounts and Audit Wales Regulations 2018. So there is a statutory basis for the audit in any event. My recommendation is, and I think it would pick up quite a lot of what has been said in questions and comments, and this is the recommendation I am going to propose in addition to the one that's in the report, which is to note the contents of the report, and obviously there's issues that have been picked up by members. But the recommendation I'm going to suggest, if it's, I will move it, and if it's seconded, basically is that the head of finance, and it needs to be the head of finance as the Section 151 officer, because he has the statutory responsibility for this service, prepares a comprehensive report for the September meeting of the Governance and Audit Committee in respect of what actions he intends to take to address the delivery of the Audit Plan 23-24, which I think will address quite a lot of questions that have been posed, and the current staffing issues which he has. So that would pick up the issues I think that Councillor Horton has picked up and several others. And secondly, that the leader of the council be invited to the meeting to address this issue. The reason why I'm just saying the leader of the council now is the point Councillor Horton said, is that the leader has responsibility for it. And in accordance with the terms of reference, I'm seeking an assurance from the Cabinet, and namely the leader of the council, in regards to the matters that have been found in regards to the internal audit team. Now, that's what I'm going to propose. That's what I'm going to recommend the committee. Clearly, it's a matter for the leader if she wishes to come or not, but I am asking for her to be invited, given the seriousness of this issue and the difficulty that Myron's got in regards to delivering the internal audit plan. Reece?
Yeah, that's, it's fine as a recommendation, and you can vote on that. But for clarity, my advice to the leader will be not to attend, because this is an operational matter. It's a delegated responsibility of the head of finance. It's a staffing matter. There's been no impact on the budget. So you can make, Chair, you can make the recommendation. It's up to the leader whether she chooses to take that up or not.
Yeah, and I don't want to get into the debate with you. The statutory responsibility for this lies with the Cabinet, not with officers. The Cabinet delegates to the officers, but the statutory responsibility lies with the Cabinet and the Cabinet members, so they cannot absolve themselves from strategic and operational issues. They are always responsible. So I will be requesting that the leader attends, because she is responsible for this matter. If you advise her otherwise, then I may need to take advice from another course, because she cannot absolve herself from it. And I've had this discussion before. The council is a creature of statute. It has cabinet, it has executive functions given to the cabinet, it has council functions, and then it has local council, local choice functions. Whether the cabinet delegates that, that's a matter for the cabinet, but the ultimate responsibility rests with the cabinet and the council.
Well, council delegates authority to the officers, not cabinet. But yeah, that would, you can vote on that. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I don't know who said that. There are cabinet functions and council functions, so the cabinet delegates its functions as well. So I don't know who said that. It's that is legally wrong. Okay, Councillor Mogford.
Yes, Chair, before we go further with this, given that Marion is responsible, I'm just wondering what influence the leader of the council would have and what benefit there is in calling her here. What changes could she possibly make or affect? So I'm sort of half with Reece at the moment, but I'm half with you, but I don't know which side I'm going to fall down on. What is the point of bringing the leader here? What difference can she make?
Difference, obviously, she got. I don't need to tell you. Myrian can tell you what is statutory responsibility. He has a statutory responsibility for financial affairs of the council, and that is quite wide-ranging. He has a responsibility for staffing within his team and delivering of his financial affairs. It is a personal responsibility of the Section 151 officer, and obviously he has protection as well, similar to the monitoring officer and the chief executive. So therefore, that's why I'm asking for Myrian at Section 151 to deliver it, and the leader of the council who has responsibility. She's named in the risk register as the cabinet member responsible. If she has got no responsibility for it, then she shouldn't be in it. So she has political responsibility for this issue, and she needs to be. If there's no cabinet member for audit or finance, and she's got it, then she needs to be fully aware of what the issues are in regards to this matter.
So, Chair, are you saying we invite her so that she's aware of the situation?
Well, she can come and comment. She can come and do whatever she wants. But obviously, it's a matter, it's a matter for Reece if he wants to advise her otherwise. I think Reece needs to take some advice from the monitor officer and the head of legal, because I think in the past, what has been said, operational matters are always the responsibility ultimately of cabinet members. They cannot absolve themselves from it. If something goes wrong, it may be the officers, but but ultimately the cabinet member needs to have a handle on the issues that are being addressed within the council. So I move anyway. So I move that we note the contents of the risk register, Q4, and I also move, and I'm happy to repeat it and send it to Pamela, that the head of finance, as Section 151 officer, prepare a comprehensive report for the September meeting of the Governance and Audit Committee in respect of what action he intends to take to address the delivery of the audit plan 2023-24 and the current staffing issues which have arisen, and that the leader of the council be invited to the meeting to also address the issue. I move. Do I have a seconder? Sorry,
Before you second it, you've conflated quite a few issues there, and are we going to take it as a group? Are we going to take that whole issue? And if we disagree with one of them, what is the situation? I mean, I'm not minded to call in the leader. I don't see the actual point. I don't know what others think, but you've conflated everything together. So I've only got one vote. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do I move it? Do I have a seconder? Right, I've got a seconder. Are there any amendments?
Can I just make a point? I think Councillor Munford, is it? Sorry. Yeah, Mockford, sorry, has made a valid point. What we've been asked to vote on here are two separate issues, albeit they're interrelated, but they are two separate issues. Should we not take a vote on two separate issues?
I've heard what you say. I'm prepared then to amend it into two parts. So the first part is for the 151 officer to prepare the report to address the audit plan 23-24 and the current staffing issues that have arisen. So if you're happy to vote on that, I'm prepared to move that as the first part. Is someone prepared to second? Thank you. Are there any amendments to that? Can I put that to the vote, please, in regards to the Chief Fine Officer? Thank you very much. The second recommendation there is that the Leader of the Council be invited to the meeting to address this matter. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Are there any amendments? So the second part is to invite the leader to address the matter, address the issue. Can I have a show of hands for those in favour, please? Those against? The matter is carried. Thank you. And the third one, just to deal with, that we note the contents of the report, of the Q4 report, and that the issues that have been picked up by members be raised to the Cabinet. So we'll move that, please. Thank you, Don. Second, Councillor Hall. Thank you. Can I have a vote of that, please? All in favour? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you very much for that. Next item on the... Sorry, I've just got to get into my machine now. 0, 2, 5. Right, the next item on the agenda is the Audit Wales Regulatory Bodies 6-month update. Is that Gareth?
I'll introduce that, Chair Tracy.
Oh, thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. So we're on page 107 of the agenda, colleagues. This is the regular update of all of the Audit Wales and regulatory body published reports, and this covers the period December 2022 to March 23. Colleagues will know that you're required to receive and consider these reports and to take assurance as to pace and completion on the actions and make any recommendations as appropriate. So within this, we've referenced all of the reports, linked to the full copy and provided a summary of the Council's response. Paul, is there anything we wanted to highlight?
Thank you. So just to highlight to the committee in relation to the contents of the report, you'll note that the regulatory bodies cover Audit Wales, Care Inspectorate Wales, who are responsible for the social services, delivery of those services, and Eston, who are responsible for education. In terms of Audit Wales, published reports since December, they've published 3 national reports and no local reports between December and March 22 to 23. In the Appendix 1 of the report, you will note the updates in terms of the reports published this year and the progress that the Council is making against those recommendations made in those reports where they're applicable for the Council to consider and implement as necessary. In relation to the Care Inspectorate Wales section of the report, there were no national reports or local reports published, but Care Inspectorate Wales do undertake inspections of services that are run by the council. So you'll note in the report this time that we're responsible for 11 services, 4 adults, 7 children. So these include homes and fostering agencies that we run. In relation to the children's services, you'll note that under the Social Wellbeing and Social Services Act, we cannot publish those reports. That's within their requirement that we cannot publish those. But we have included where they've completed them for the adult services that are provided. And then finally, with the Eston inspections, we've included a list of the inspections completed for those schools in 22-23, and we've got links to those reports and where they've been highlighted in the report. You'll note that there's no schools in statutory measures at this point in time in Newport, and we're happy to take any further comments or questions from the committee.
Thank you for that, Paul and Tracy. Are there any questions? Don?
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of questions, if I can, please. On page 113, in the second paragraph, you've written it under the NCC action. The working group concluded that the Council does not have sufficient resources to undertake the self-evaluations recommended by Audit Wales and then to monitor its delivery. A couple of questions about that, because I'm assuming that, first of all, first question is, I would assume that Audit Wales are aware of what the Council's already doing in these areas and whatever policies that they have. Would that be fair, Paul, or not?
That's not correct. So Gareth might be able to answer that question in a little bit more detail, but You know, once Audit Wales have published those reports, it's up to us as to how we implement any recommendations, if indeed we need to implement those recommendations. In particular with these reports, so there were 3 reports that were published by Audit Wales in relation to the cost of living poverty agenda. This working group looked at that extensively and concluded that we would be better off looking and establishing a cost of living steering group, which is being set up through the Director of Social Services, where we're going to take in and around the recommendations from those Audit Wales reports, but also we have to consider other reports which are all related to the cost of living, which is detailed in the reports, such as the Marmot Review on the Regional Cost of Living and Public Services Board and the Key Cities work, etc. So we have to consider that in and around, and how then we prioritise and determine what we need to deliver as a local authority in relation to those recommendations and actions then going forward, so we can deliver those reasonably within the resources that we've got. Does that explain it? I don't know.
Can I just clarify something? But it's a national report, so the recommendations were for everyone, and we've taken the view that we have different arrangements in place or suitable arrangements in place. Just to clarify that.
I won't reply because Gareth Scott's looking like he's going to say something.
Oh, that's great, thanks. Yeah, it was just to add, really just to confirm the explanation they provided by Paul and by Tracy. So ultimately, with these being national reports, we wouldn't necessarily follow up on them specifically, but we'll obviously maintain contact with Rhys, Tracy, Paul and their teams, just in terms of how those recommendations are being actioned. And there'd obviously just be ongoing discussion, questions, challenge, as to the directions then taken. So, that discussion really is sort of ongoing.
Now, to go back and answer your question, yeah, that's great, thank you. Yeah, that does answer my question. On page 114, at the bottom on recommendation 2, you've got completed by March 2023. Comment, because it's not March 2023.
Yeah, it has been completed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gareth,
Sorry,
you're on
Norma.
mute.
Yeah, I did notice. Norma, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this report. It's really clear, easy to follow, easy to understand. Picking up on what Don just raised, I think there seem to be a couple in there where they're actually in progress, but the heading says completed, but there's actually a target date for completion. And I draw your attention to, this is my scribbles, carbon reduction on 114, equality impact assessments, I think 116, asset management 117. I think the rest, the social services ones, were all completed within the date. But I think it's confusing because it's got complete in the heading in the column, and then it's got a deadline. And when you read the text, it doesn't look as if it's completed, it's ongoing. So just to make it clear, it's clear in all the others, but that there are those that I picked up there.
Thank you for your comments. We'll take those forward and we'll make sure that's clearer next time.
I think there was one other thing I just wanted to explore, really. I was thinking about performance management data, and I've lost track of where it is here. There was about comparing with the data of other local authorities, and I just wanted some assurance that our HR data, what we're collecting, is in line with what our other authorities are collecting as well. Sorry, I should have noted the number.
Yeah, I see that, I think.
Norma,
I think it's on page 116. So we're working with, because obviously we can't do that on our own, we're working with the WLGA Data Cymru. For a while there was no benchmarking, and we're now reinstating, they are, and we are part of that, reinstating benchmark data. We have in the interim worked to kind of informally compare data in order to keep up that practice, but clearly there needs to be a strong national framework, and we're working with WLGA on that. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Tracy. Are there any other questions? Dom?
Last one, okay. On page 115, in the report overview, second paragraph, it says, NFI participants display a strong commitment to counter fraud. 13 of the 22 Welsh local authorities identified 95% of the fraud and error outcomes, which means that 9 authorities delivered 5%. My question is, with Newport, are we one of the 13 or are we one of the 9?
I think if I'm right, I can confirm with Gareth that we were one of the 13 in relation to the in that report. So,
Paul, I can tell you that Gareth is nodding.
Yeah, shall I just add as well, just to give a little bit of context there. So yes, Newport are one of the 13. And I suppose just to set out a little bit of the nuance, so in terms of the other 9 councils then reflecting another 5% of the outcomes, I suppose it doesn't necessarily mean that those 9 councils didn't engage with the process in the same way necessarily. So it's not reflecting that, it's just simply reflecting the outcomes as they arose.
Thank you for that very political response, Gareth.
Can I just add, Chair, a little bit of perhaps extra information that we've just received, I think yesterday, our final counter-fraud report about our outcomes. So that'll be coming in the next update. We've had to review that fully. Yeah.
Thanks for that.
It'll be in the next collative update. So yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Tracy. Are there any other questions from anyone? I can't see. No. Just a quick question, Paul. Just a quick question, if I may, because I don't know the answer to this. On the Appendix 2, which is the Care Inspectorate Wales inspections and the children's provisions, obviously reports cannot be published as per Care Inspectorate Wales requirements. If there are any recommendations that come out of those inspections, where are they picked up?
Thank you, Chair. So just to confirm, and I think it's in the body of the report, the recommendations that are made by Care Inspectorate Wales are captured within social services, and then they're reported to the Council's Executive Board as well. So they will be going to the Council's Executive Board, they will go to the Directorate Management Team, and they're also shared with the Cabinet members responsible for social services as well.
It does raise the question then, if we don't see them, how can we provide any assurance?
I don't know the answer to that, Chair, so I'll have to follow that up with the Director of Social Services to clarify that position.
Yeah, obviously I should never ask a question I don't know the answer to, but I don't know the answer to it either, and clearly there are provisions obviously within the Local Government Act to make these matters exempt or confidential, and I'm sure if it was in regards to, I don't know whether it's in regard to young people itself, but whether or not, you know, they could be anonymised and just any recommendations could be picked up. If, you know, if there's a trend there, who picks that trend up?
Thank you, Chair. We'll take those comments on board and we'll speak to the Director of Social Services to examine whether what the range or the limit is in terms of what we can and cannot report to the Audit Committee. And we'll seek clarification then from the Monitoring Officer just to make sure that we're not, you know, breaching any legislation from the Social Services Act to make sure that we can meet those requirements.
You know, really, I wouldn't want us to do that. And if we're not entitled to see it, then so be it. But, you know, if we're in this continuous improvement agenda and trying to address these issues, then, it's just knowing what the trends are. And if they're, it could be a common trend, as we discussed earlier, about children's money. So if you see what I mean, I'm not trying to be awkward, please don't take it that way, but it's just wondering who sort of signs that off. And I understand it goes through all the management team, but if it's a responsibility of us for assurance, then I just need to be given whatever we need to do, and it can be done simply, if you know what I mean. Okay. Are there any comments from anyone? No, if there are no comments, the recommendation there is that we consider the contents of the report of the regulatory activity completed, and where recommendations be raised, the council has taken next action. So I think we note the contents of this report. Someone prepared to move, please? Thank you, Norma. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Horton. All those in favour? Thank you, that's unanimous. Next item is the draft statement of accounts 22-23.
That's myself, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So the statement of accounts presented to Audit Committee are the 22-23 draft accounts, which were approved by the Section 151 officer, and a copy was given to Audit Wales on the 30th of June 23. Audit Wales will undertake their audit over the coming months, and once that audit has been concluded, the committee will be presented with a final set of accounts for approval. The purpose of this report is to present the committee with a copy of the draft accounts for your consideration. For the 22-23 accounts, there have been no new standards adopted and no changes to the accounting policies. This year's statement of accounts has been prepared in slightly different circumstances to those experienced in recent years. The impact of the COVID-19 pandemic has been lesser than in the last 3 years, although the cost of living crisis has been a consideration in calculating some of the bad debt provision. There's also been little in the way of technical accounting changes that have needed to be reflected in the accounts. We are required to consolidate the Cardiff Capital Region City Deal accounts within our single entities. However, we have had confirmation that their draft set of accounts will not be available until the end of July, and so consolidation of those will be done for the final set of accounts. And these accounts also do not include the annual governance statement, as this is included within a separate agenda item for this committee to review and comment, and will be included within the final set of accounts. So between issuing the draft accounts and the final accounts, we would like to ask the committee to provide any questions or comments that they would have and that they would like to feedback and discuss with the finance team. And if so, we're asked the committee to supply the information by the end of August so that it can be included within the final statement of accounts and form an extra additional level of review. And so happy to take any comments or questions.
Thank you, Laura, for that. Again, a very comprehensive set of accounts, and can I just say thank you to you and the team, and obviously Myrian and that to produce these accounts within a tight timetable again this year. Any questions? Norma?
Chair, I just have one question. Not about the specifics of the accounts. I think it's quite difficult as an independent member to comment on any detail of it. But I was quite curious about why we were unsuccessful in the bid for the Levelling Up Fund. I don't know whether anyone can answer that for me. Because if something's in the report, it raises a question, and if that wasn't answered, it's just that we were unsuccessful in the Levelling Up Fund.
Can I just clarify where in the report?
Oh, no, you're asking.
Are you talking about the statement of accounts as opposed to the actual accounts themselves rather than the covering report?
Of accounts. It's the first question I've got under my notes, so it's got to be in there somewhere. It's in some of the narratives. Sorry, I should have said where. It's got to be in there.
Yeah,
But perhaps we can take it outside this meeting.
Yeah, I wouldn't have...
Just a bit curious, really, because it's a great opportunity, and I know other authorities have been successful. I just thought, why haven't we not successful? I'll try and track it, but I'm pretty sure I must have picked it up there. I wouldn't have. Pardon? Yeah, that's City
185.
That's City Deal, which is different.
And 3.
Yeah.
Which one?
I'll chase it in. You found it,
Yeah,
Tracy?
Oh, this is the aspect within narrative report comment on the council's performance during the year. So I found it now. Well, in terms of why the council was unsuccessful, I suppose that's not something that obviously is not a decision that the council made. That was a UK government decision as to why any bid the council submitted was unsuccessful. I don't personally know why that was unsuccessful. I'm not sure if any officers would be able, possibly colleagues in regeneration may have had feedback, but yeah, as to why our bid was unsuccessful, I couldn't comment.
Okay, let's let it go. I was quite curious on that one.
Are there any other questions from anyone? Don, did you want to do a question? Or
Yeah, it is a quick question, Chair. It's just that with and thanks for the report, and asking for information to go to, to go to the finance team with any points we might have. My question was, Chair, I think because they're asking members of the committee to go direct, wouldn't it be more, wouldn't it be polite and probably the proper course if you were copied in? Because I'm just wondering if we're all going back to finance and same issues, and there's a trend, that would be better, brought out in a meeting. That's my question. So probably the question's to you, Chair. Sorry.
Well, I would have thought it's a question to the finance team. I'm happy to receive any comments from members just to be copied in. Clearly, I can look at the trend, but it will be the finance team to make those judgments as to whether or not the account's amended or not. So, Laura?
What we can do is we can collate any responses that we have from any members of the committee and then send that to you if that would be helpful.
That would be very helpful. Thank you very much. Okay, are there any further questions? No, any comments? No, you see the recommendation before you that we note the draft 2022-23 statements of accounts. Someone prepared to move, please? Thank you, Councillor Mogford. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Norma. All in favour, please show. Thank you very much. That's carried unanimously. The next item is the annual governance statement draft 22-23.
Thank you, Chair.
Again, Laura. Myriad, is it?
AGS, yes. Thanks, Chair. So the Council is required to review its governance arrangements annually, and we are also required to do a self-assessment, and they are both a key part of the Council's annual accounts, which you've just heard, but they're also part of the Council's self-assessment process as well. So this is being done for both of those purposes. We've had a slightly different, more sharper approach to it this year. In line with the Council's governance approach, we have assessed our processes that we go through over 7 broad headings, and we've, in Appendix 1, we've identified all of our key processes, policies, procedures, etc., that meets the governance and controls to sort of meet those objectives. There are some. There's an action plan of some of the gaps and recommendations that we need to take forward. Of the 7 broad areas, 2 of them are assessed as amber because there is some developments and improvements required, with the other 5 assessed as being satisfactory, with the overall assessments being being satisfactory. We've taken this assessment to the Council's corporate management team, so that's the directors and heads of service. We've received no feedback, no corrections or observations, etc., from the Council's senior management team. And we also want to bring it to this committee here now to seek your observations and any issues that we need to look into. We will then consider those and update the documents as appropriate. What happens then is that the document is reviewed and authorised, signed by the Chief Executive and the leader of the Council. But before we get to that point, clearly we were very keen that we had both the senior management, the corporate management team feedback, which we've already done, as I've said, and this committee's feedback as well, so that the document can be as good as it can be before it goes for consideration and sign-off. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Myron, for that. Any questions from members? Councillor Harris?
Yes, I noticed on page 274 that stage 1 complaints have gone up since last year, and stage 2 complaints have gone up. And what's that? Complaints to PSOW. Well, I don't know what that acronym is, but that's gone up as well. Are people complaining more since the COVID thing?
Thanks, Councillor. We will have a detailed report on complaints within the coming months, actually, to this committee. We are getting better at recording complaints and categorising complaints, and we've done quite a lot of work on that, and we don't see more complaints being recorded as a bad thing necessarily. I missed the point about the Public Services Ombudsman, sorry. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
In 21-22 there were 24, and in 22-23 there were 37. So,
yeah. So where the individual feels they've had an unsatisfactory response, they go on to the Public Services Ombudsman. I haven't got the numbers in front of me, but we consider, from a complaints perspective, which is in my area, in the report you'll see it another time, is how many of those were upheld by the Public Services Ombudsman as well. And there's been a small increase in those, but we think that reflects overall us encouraging people to, internally and externally, to categorise complaints differently. Partly, and partly we don't want to rely on members of the public to say it's a complaint. If you know, we ought to be promoting that service almost. If someone feels something is wrong, is this a complaint? Do you want to record it that way? And making sure we are recording more robustly our complaints. Yes, yeah.
And if I could also add, of course, as an assessment of our governance arrangement, our complaints procedure shows that we have that effective engagement with our customers. And that's the focus of this document. Are we, do we do that? And this shows that we have a process in place and it's operating.
Any other questions? I can't see if anyone's showing because I'm not. Norma, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Looking at this, trying to look at this objectively, and if we go back to the discussion we had in this committee about the self-assessment that we did in Newport, from what I remember, there was quite a negative feedback in terms of the self-assessment that, you know, it didn't actually convince us as a committee that it was authentic. And I don't know whether you recall that debate, and I'm just thinking of, you mentioned, Myron, on the introduction of this, about how it links to self-assessment. Well, when I was looking at this, I thought to myself, now, what does this actually tell me? All it tells me is you've got policies and processes in place, and you claim that ensures good governance. Well, I think good governance is about a lot more than having policies and processes in place. And, you know, what's the impact of these policies and processes? We can't be perfect. There's got to be lots of things we need to be addressing. And I'm not sure we're identifying our deficiencies in governance, and I'm not sure we have evidence in that document to actually give us assurances. That's my personal view of it. You know, there were no further actions in the majority of areas. So, you know, reading it, someone would draw the conclusion, everything's fine, policies and processes in place, no actions for quite a number of things. You think, actually, this doesn't feel right. And I just asked the question, the other comment I'd like to make, I think the timetable for completing the actions is far too long, and particularly as a number of the actions don't look on the surface to be time-consuming, but, you know, I don't know the detail. That's, you know, that's a layperson's view of it. And I just question, have you looked at best practice in this area? Have you looked at how other authorities are doing it? Because I have, and there's a big difference in terms of the way Newport's doing it and some other authorities are doing it. And I can get assurance from what I've read of other authorities. This, I'm afraid, doesn't give me assurance that we've got good governance in place. It just tells me we have policies and procedures in place. Well, you can have policies and procedures in place, but if people aren't following them, you know, and we don't know the impact, it tells me nothing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to give that negative feedback.
You're perfectly entitled, of course. Okay, I mean, this is a new approach that we've got this year. You know, we're very happy to take a look at other approaches. If you have some very specific examples where we can go and look at, then very happy to receive those, and we will look at those specifically. Very happy to sort of to do that. I mean, clearly the governance statement is really about what are our processes and procedures, you know, and actually they are listed here, and then have they been operating? I'm happy to take a look at the that middle column, the evidence and kind of updates, to provide more detail there around have those processes and actions and policies been in place, and as far as we are aware, adhered to. The point of going to the corporate management team was also to get their, to get their feedback if this was incorrect, and we've had no such response, and therefore, you know, we are taking that as being that these have been in place, and of course the audit plan in 22/3 has also provided us with some assurances in a number of areas as well that these are in place and operating. So I hope that's helpful. We think it does answer the question, do we have these policies in place and procedures in place, and have they been operating? If we can sharpen it up, then I'm very happy to take a look at other forms of setting it down, and to make any sort of changes.
I will pass on, because I'm on the Governance and Audit Committee at Pembrokeshire, as you probably know. I will, theirs is public. It's been published. The draft has been published. I've got the link here. In the process of sending it to you, Myron, because I think it'd be worthwhile looking at the way they have produced the evidence. it's quite a lot of recognising weaknesses, and I don't get the feel for that we're actually looking at where we're weak and where we are deficient. And we know that from, just today's meeting.
There are more actions and weaknesses in this than in previous years, and certainly the amber on 2 out of the 7 areas is not something that we've had in the past, and therefore I feel as if we have moved that issue forward. It may not be as much as you might think, but we have taken, we have made changes, in the direction that you're saying there as well.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Myron. And I was going to suggest, though, whether it's worthwhile, given what Laura said in regards to the accounts, whether any comments which members may be raised subsequent now, because obviously there may be other questions, can be forwarded to you again for you to take into consideration. I think for the account it was the end of August, whether or not that could happen for the annual governance statement.
Thank you, Chair. I think that's a helpful comment. So we will definitely need this, obviously, for the accounts, and obviously we'll need it in good time for the external auditors, because they will also be taking a look at it in terms of, does it feel right, in terms of what they know about the organisation. It's not a detailed audit like the figures, but they do take a, does this feel right in terms of what they know about us. So if we could have some comments over the next 2 weeks, that would be helpful, and then it gives us time to update the document and to give our auditors a chance to look at it.
Can you give us a specific date by which they're going to be sent?
Well, if we could maybe agree on, say, August the 18th, Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Myron. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Any comments? Don?
Yeah, I don't want Norma to feel she's by herself on this. Not that it would bother her, but I don't like the report. For me, it's more self-promotion than self-assessment. Where you've got, and maybe I did take my misery pills today, Marion, but where you've got further actions to improve. I've been on successful ISO, IIPs, etc., and where we've received top awards, but we've had more actions to improve, even though we've achieved the top award, than what you're showing. And to me, there's also some room there where you can actually, in further actions to improve, there are some easy wins to be had there as well, because what I did was I've actually gone on the internet as well and looked at other things that are in the public domain, and I've seen some things, and I've actually got some hard copies for you, Marion, of where layouts which I think would be more reflective for where the citizens of Newport are more likely to look at, read and understand, and it's more transparent for them, because ultimately the accounts are for them as well. So I just think that with this as it is, I'm not sure I particularly like the tone, but I will get stuff to you. I think it's very difficult for us to be able to suggest to you further actions to improve, because we're not familiar with the expertise, but we can give general areas where we think there should be further actions to improve, even on what we've seen.
Thank you for that, Don. I think it's the same point, really, that if all this documentation or comments can be sent to Myrian before the 18th of August, then obviously, within the next day or so, Myrian can take it into consideration and have a look at the annual governance statement. Are there any other comments? No, the only comment I make in regards to Tracy and the Public Service Ombudsman for Wales, there was likely to be an increase in the number of complaints because it was an election year. You normally tend to find that during an election year that the number of complaints increase, and it may settle down now, given that the elections are over. But that's the only comment I'd make. I think that's found throughout Wales and throughout England when elections are held. We've got the recommendation then before us. So we've reviewed the draft governance statement, and we provide appropriate comments by the 18th of August to the Head of Finance before recommending its presentation alongside the annual statement of accounts 22-23. Someone prepared to move, please? Thank you, Councillor Jordan. A seconder, Councillor Harris. Thank you. All in favour, please show. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. The next item is the work programme. Is anyone presenting the work programme?
Anne hasn't got a microphone, sorry, but the work programme is for noting unless there are any questions.
Yeah, I think, thanks for that, Tracy. Clearly, we've got the agenda items there for the 28th of September 2023. The only issues I think we just need to have, similar to what we had previously with social services on the two call-in matters, is just a quick update from the Director as to what action's been taken between now and the 28th of September. And I think that can be done via a memorandum as it's been done before. We don't need a Director there, but someone needs to do that. And the other issue I think we need to pick up is the annual report for the Governance and Audit Committee. Maybe that's something I need to take offline with Rhys, but we just need to look at that at some stage. Sorry, Rhys, I can see you in the corner.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I've just turned my mic on, Chair. in preparation.
That's okay.
Yeah, so Leanne and I have got some time in. When you are actually back in the country, if you want to drop me a line, we'll pick up and we'll get some framework together by that 28th.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah,
that's lovely. Yeah, thank you for that, Rhys. Thanks very much. Okay, so we're asked to endorse the proposed schedule for future meetings and confirm the list of people if we'd like to invite for each item. Clearly, the additional information are those memorandums from the Director of Social Services for her two items, and we've got the final PTU issue in regards to their matter. Someone prepared to move, please, that we endorse the proposed schedule? Thank you, Councillor Jordan. Can I have a seconder? Thank you. Thank you, Don. All in favour? Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the date of the next meeting, which is the 28th of September 2023. Can I firstly thank all the officers for the time and effort put into preparing the reports and preparing for today's committee. It was greatly appreciated. Can I thank the members for the questioning, the debate and the discussion. Again, some very complex and difficult issues to address, but the aim of the committee is to drive forward on continuous improvement. And on that basis, can I just say thank you again and have a safe trip home to wherever you're going. I've now closed the meeting. Thank you very much.